Hey, welcome to class 3. This is yoga and stretching for dental professionals. And this class specifically, we're focusing on the arm, wrist, hand, shoulders, and upper back. So let's start. I'm going to go over a few fun things in this course, and we're going to actually start with massage. So massage obviously doesn't have anything to do with yoga and stretching. So if this is not something you're interested in, go ahead and just skip through this part. But massages are also ways that we can increase blood flow and oxygenation to areas of pain. And it can also help relax muscles. It can help with trigger points, which are similar to little knots that you would find in your shoulder or your back. So those are the two kinds of massages. There are two kinds of massages I'm going to go over. One is just a carpal tunnel massage, and another is a trigger point massage or a massage for knots. So carpal tunnel is really interesting because it's pretty much just compression of that median nerve. And that nerve extends from your hand all the way up your arm and goes even all the way up here. So a lot of times when we think of carpal tunnel, we think of it just in the wrist, but you can actually massage upper areas of your arm and also experience relief. So just kind of looking at that picture, some areas that you can massage are right here by your thumb. These fingers right here are all going to be the ones that are experiencing pain. So any stretches there is really helpful. But the main area to massage is right here between these two little bony prominences on your hand. And what you can do, of course, you want to kind of pull, massage in a pulling motion on both sides of your hand. And that's because what's happening is this ligament is what's compressing the nerve. So by stretching that ligament and opening it up, that compression should release a little bit and should be a little bit less painful. And you can extend that massage down your wrist and then even up into your arm. This is really interesting for me because this is where I experience a lot of compression on the front side of my arm, on there, and then the back side of my arm, same spot. Here is just normal kind of pushing in and rubbing massage on both areas. And again, it does the same thing. It's all about compression of that median nerve. So anything you can do to kind of loosen up the muscles, loosen up the tension, and just release that nerve from whatever is squeezing it, it's going to be what makes everything feel a little bit better. So another thing just for someone who loves you to do is if you can have a friend come in and actually place their thumbs on both of those bony prominences right here and kind of rub out from the middle out to the bony prominence. That's a really good way to help stretch that transverse carpal ligament, or that little ligament that covers up the nerve and all those tendons. Anyway, interesting facts about carpal tunnel. Trigger points are little lumps or bumps that develop and are often really tight and painful. Sometimes you can even feel them. Other times you're just able to pinpoint a spot that is really painful. And trigger points can be massaged to encourage healing. And what you want to do for a trigger point is not just rub. Oddly enough, you want to apply really deep pressure for about 5 seconds. And then you're going to massage it for another 5 seconds. And then press again for another 5 seconds. And you're going to repeat this for 1 minute. It may need to be done for a couple days to have optimal relief. But yeah, that is how you're supposed to treat a knot or a trigger point. So moving on to our hands. Hands need to be in the correct position to not experience pain. Obviously, for dentists, dental hygienists, and assistants in some scenarios, constant repetitive movements are going to cause pain, even if you have good ergonomics. But regardless, the better the ergonomics, the less likely it is that you will develop some kind of a musculoskeletal disorder. So your hand should be in neutral position, which if you can see in figure F, that's actually slightly raised. Your thumb is going to be slightly raised in comparison to your pinky. Having your hand completely flat is something that you want to avoid. The other thing you want to avoid is when you move an instrument, you should not move your wrist. So your wrist should stay in that neutral position, and if you need to move an instrument, it should not be done by going like this. It should be done by moving your arm. And your instruments should be held generally in a modified pen grasp. There are definitely some differences for different instruments, such as the HVE section, high volume evacuator, that's going to be different for assistants. But regardless of how you hold it, if you are squeezing your section or squeezing your instrument really tight, you need to make sure that you often relax your grasp and even often stretch those muscles just to get the blood flowing back to that area. So let's move on to some stretches. Wrist extension and flexion are what are mainly going to be seen on the post-test. And this is completed by keeping your palm in front of you and using your opposite hand and to apply slight pressure and stretch your wrist. And then flexion is when you do the same thing, but on the other side of your hand. Yeah, I wanted to also talk about cat-cow pose. This one we've done a couple times now, and this is performed by extending and flexing the spine while you're on your hands and knees. Savasana, which is too many people's favorite, this is where you lay down flat on your back with your palms facing up towards the sky. Now, interestingly enough, this pose can actually be painful to some people's backs, especially if you have some kind of disc compression or herniation or degenerative diseases. So for a lot of people, especially people with lower back pain, grabbing some kind of a chair and using it to support your knees relieves that back pain. I did want to mention in this version of Savasana, it looks like this person's hands are out. It is still better for your hands to be at your sides with your palms facing up, even if your knees are raised. But that is it for this class. Thank you for participating, and email me if you have any questions.